I know this is an incredible food plot process that you can take advantage of this year with hardly any equipment. I go to a lot of clients where the daunting task, it's crazy. They'll own 200 acres of private land. They need about 8 to 12 acres of food plots. It could be 6 acres, it could be 15. They need somewhere in there and they're thinking, man, I don't have a tractor. I don't have big equipment. How am I going to do this? We got you covered. It's a very, very easy process. Jen and I, on the lands that we hunt, 7 acres of corn that Brandon from First Choice Food Plots, he plants, and he covers several states. He's someone you can contact. Just look up First Choice Food Plots on Instagram, Facebook, that kind of thing, or message me or put it on a comment. I'll get you his number. But bottom line is, that means we have 14 other acres we plant by hand, meaning side-by-side sprayer, ATV sprayer, and an earthway spreader with a Packer Max cultipacker. Pretty easy stuff, basic equipment. And I talk about this process because we've used drills in the past. I've even had a 48 horse tractor with a 6-foot tiller. I've had and used a lot of good equipment, and this is the most efficient for us. And it gives us the ability to have beautiful food plots without sacrificing any quality, without breaking the bank. So I'm not saying a tractor is not a good thing. Sometimes you tractor, you can put seed down below the soil. You can drill, of course, corn into the ground using a corn planter and with hydraulic top link, that kind of thing. You can press it down 2 inches. That helps you take advantage of more moisture. So seed that is on the ground, even if you have a cover crop that you're planting into and it holds moisture, will always need more moisture than if that seed is put into the ground. So when you get a certain amount of rain, the seed's in the soil holds moisture for a little bit longer, and it'll germinate. And I'll give you an example. We've no-tilled about 15 acres out of 18 acres of switchgrass on this farm in Minnesota. That means 3 acres Brandon's tilled. The other 15 acres look beautiful and they're just as high quality as the ones that Brandon tilled. The only difference is we've had times where we have to keep on it a lot more because we've had switchgrass that's germinated in June, early June, and we've had switchgrass that's germinated end of July. Because in a dry area, the switchgrass in a dry area of the property, meaning more runoff, drier soil, then it didn't hold the moisture, the seed sitting on top of the soil, and it took longer to germinate because it needed more moisture, and we didn't get moisture till the end of July, so it didn't germinate till the end of July, early August. Where switchgrass laying on heavier soil, maybe it was tipped away from the sun slightly, because of elevation change, it held moisture longer and germinated a month and a half, 2 months earlier. Hope that makes sense. So it's same with drilling in seed. Outside of that, though, when you're planting in the fall, moisture only increases. You get another great shot in the spring. So not only is it a great time to plant your fall plots and a great time to plant in general, it's a great time to establish perennials for the following year because you get their feet and roots established. Great increase in moisture in the fall, winter dormancy, and then you get another great shot of moisture in the spring. And because we design our food plot systems and our food plots, our blends to actually be drought proof or withstand drought, especially I'm talking our perennials that you plant in the spring, typically we plant in the spring. We have chicory in there, alfalfa. There's a lot of reason and science behind it that I've learned over the last 25 years from trial and error, but it helps you ward off drought. And if you plant that in the fall, there's really no drought that can kill it the following summer unless it's catastrophic, worldwide drought for some reason. So the buckwheat no-till is a great option for you. Why no-till? Well, around here, if you go to the soil conservation meetings and you're really into the farming, you'll find out they started farming in the 1860s. In fact, the one parcel that we own, we purchased from the family that bought it in 1867, had their name on the original deed from the President of the United States signing over that 160 for them to buy it. That's when they started farming. So over the last, 150 plus years, 160 years, then what's happened over time with tillage and plowing is that 3 or 4 feet of topsoil has turned into 10 or 12 inches. So if you do the math, if current practices remain the same of deep tillage, plowing, disking, and chisel plowing, then they say within 50 to 60 years there will be no more topsoil. Why? Because it's all eroded down into our hills and valleys. So someone will say, well, we till and plow and disc and keep setting weeds back, and therefore we don't have to use any weed killer because we're out there running the tractor 4 times. Well, you can erode your land, destroy your land, and of course there's you till and bring up more weed seeds. There's all that too, but you have to always balance everything. And so no-till is a great option because you conserve topsoil. You're working on that top layer. And what you find is, if you look at the soil science, is when you're no-tilling over and over, and you're always working on that top layer of soil, whether it's an inch or inch and a half, as opposed to tilling up 9 inches and bringing it and incorporating that poor soil back into the top, then what you find is, and always remember that when you're tilling, you're always losing that top layer. So then the next year you till a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper, and you're always getting into non-topsoil at this point and bringing up garbage. And so when you work on that top layer, I've talked to farmers around here that they'll convert to no-till, and what they'll find is after a couple of years of working on that top layer only and only no-tilling, because that organic matter and the quality of that soil in the top, which is where the plant grows anyways, is so much superior to their neighbors, they actually get a higher yield after a certain number of years have passed that far exceeds and offsets the cost of buying new equipment over the long run. So if they can afford to, but they'll have a higher yield, more bushels per acre of corn, whatever it might be, whatever measurables there are, and they're not losing that topsoil, they're just building that top. There's a lot of benefits. They're not drying out the soil, a lot of benefits. You have to kill weeds, and that's critical. So people say, well, we till, plow. It's bad. There's always a balance. We don't want to spray throughout the entire year. We don't want to. But there's a reason all the professional farmers around here do it, because they're paid to produce a good yield. Why should it be any different with us? We're using limited acres. I don't want to have junk plots with a bunch of weeds that don't actually, if I'm working on 12 acres or 18 acres of food plots like we have here, 3¼ acre plot that we have in Wisconsin, it's all important. I can't afford to throw 50% away because we have a bunch of weeds. And I can't afford around here, because of all the hills we plant on, to erode the soil. We've literally had corn growing in a dozen spots on our property after the neighbor chisel plowed and then planted, and we had a giant rain of 3 or 4 inches. It washed a lot of that seed onto our property, and we actually had corn growing on our property from the gullies that washed out from the neighbor's ag land, from deep tillage. There's always a balance. So we kill the weeds. Means we're going to be planting 50 pounds per acre about June 1st, early June around here, and that's no different than just about anywhere. For example, Ohio, Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, in those lines, Missouri, you might be planting more August 15th. We're planting more around August 1st. But other than when we kill the buckwheat, there's not much of a difference in planting date. Maybe for us, we might plant around June 1st. For you, you might plant 10 days later, 2 weeks later. But bottom line is you're focusing on about 7 to 8 weeks of growth max. So we're killing weeds up to that point. Now, if you're rotating your crops, that might mean you're just killing whatever weeds are coming in that spring, and you're doing it right before buckwheat planting time. If you have problem weeds like pigweed, water hemp, where you're getting a good kill in 2 weeks before planting time, and then in our case, we just broadcast the seed on top of the soil. Buckwheat germinates really well, and it's 50 pounds per acre. They give you the right stalk spacing, because buckwheat is the only smother crop. It's the only smother crop that will completely shade out the ground, and it won't allow most weeds to grow underneath. For that, it acts like a greenhouse effect, where it actually keeps moisture in the ground, keeps it from drying out and baking during the sun and cracking. It also helps you avoid erosion. And then that buckwheat plant itself is full of, that entire root system is fine organic matter. Corn that you till back in is not fine organic matter, neither is rye. Neither is sorghum. People are planting sorghum for a cover crop during the summertime. One of the worst things you can do, because once you till that back into the soil, it's not fine organic matter. It's lots of organic matter, but it takes years to break down. Even the smart farming practices around here that use sorghum as part of their feed for cattle rotate those locations of sorghum, so they're not stripping the soil over and over again. It's almost more consuming than corn. The bottom line is they're still rotating, because it takes so much from the soil. So buckwheat is completely different. The leaves, the stem system, and the root system are fine organic matter. The only difference is that actual shoot, that leader that turns into a stalk. That's a little bit different, but that lays on top and breaks down, dries out, and blows away. Way different than a corn stalk, a big consuming amount of rye, or something like sorghum as a soil builder. So we're killing the weeds. We put on a weed-free environment so that it can actually grow up, be a smother crop, and it's exponential growth. You look at, boy, it's just holding on, and then it comes up, holds moisture against the ground, keeps it from eroding, shades out those weeds, and that's all a very good thing. 50 pounds per acre. Where do you buy this buckwheat? We'll just throw this in. We sell buckwheat. I encourage you not to buy it from us. The reason is because we work with a seed wholesaler that has high quality seeds. Buckwheat happens to be the seed out of our entire seed company, Pure Wildlife Blends, that we make the least amount on. We do it as a convenience for our customers. If you can't find it somewhere and you have to buy it, we'll sell it to you by the pallet. We'll sell it to you by the bag. Bottom line is we look at us as a last resort. Go to your local feed mill and buy it. And if someone's selling it online for 75 bucks for a bag of buckwheat, we can't even buy it for that. So it shows you the quality of seed they're getting. They're probably getting it out of someone's barn in Illinois. So you have to really look at what type of seed it is, what kind of weeds are in it. We want that seed label to show that. And we have to pay a premium for our seed, and that's why we have to charge a lot, and it's a lot for shipping. We ship 48-pound bags because per UPS, once you hit 50, the shipping costs go through the roof. So we're always trying to negotiate our lowest shipping prices with whatever shipping carrier we use, and that's why 48 pounds is still costs a lot to ship. So try to buy it from somewhere else. Once that buckwheat's established, in the past, I'd say if it was thigh high or less, you could seed into it, smash it, roll it, spray it with glyphosate, kill it. You'd have a great plot. Problem is people don't listen. And so it'd get to chest high, belly high. People are literally seeding it off the front of the ATV, building a seeder high up on the ATV. Instead, over the years, what's worked out best for recommendation, best for us in addressing weed concerns, too, is I like to smash it. We use a Packer Max behind a side-by-side, and then we're spraying at the same time. We turn the sprayer off every other row because that side-by-side sprayer is shooting out. So we only need to turn the sprayer on every other row. And last year, this is a good example, we smashed, rolled, and killed on the 21st of July because we wanted to plant by August 1st. On the 30th, I went back and I hand seeded into the sanding, into the dead buckwheat, and you can see in 9 days what happened to it. Because you're killing it, it dies immediately. You're rolling it over, the chemical gets into it immediately. It turns crispy brown, and the leaves by then are gone and they're turned to dust. All again, those leaves are fine organic matter. They just turn to dust. So you have debris that you can plant into. It holds moisture better in the form of the stalk, maybe some of the stems. It'll help you germinate the seeds better. In our Big Boost Brassica, our Fall Power Greens, anything that we have, we want you to be able to plant with very little tillage equipment or planting equipment involved. So soybeans, lots of peas, oats, those are all the hardest to germinate. You don't need to plant that. That's why we design our blends around this so you can have an easy process and find success. But you can see the difference in 9 days it makes. I mean, that's a jungle out there, and then it just turns to dust, turns brown, and there's 95% soil exposure so you can get the seeds on the ground. It works extremely well. We wait 10 days after smashing, rolling, and killing and planting. The 10 days is so it breaks down, and also so that if you have pigweed, water hemp, smartweed, some of the worst weeds that you can find, then you can add 1 to 1.5 pints per acre 2,4-D to your glyphosate. And by the time any of that seed would germinate that you throw down in 10 days, that 2,4-D is out of the soil. Now, don't come back complaining if you wait 4 days and plant and seed doesn't get on the soil because there's still a mat of buckwheat that hasn't broken down, or you sprayed 2,4-D and the 2,4-D keeps your seeds from germinating. Wait 10 days plus, then throw the seed on the ground. You'll get better germination because the buckwheat that is left in the stalks are going to hold moisture against the soil. So you need less rain to actually get the seed to germinate. And you're doing it because if you see that you have those problem weeds, you can take care of it by adding the 2,4-D. Either way, you use glyphosate. You use glyphosate because you want to kill whatever weeds are down below, but at the same time, you want to kill the buckwheat immediately so it turns brown within 10 days and you can plant into it. It's an incredibly great process. Now, what we do is we layer 40 days later after the initial spraying, and so we got into mid-September, and that's a great time to actually, plant. So if we're planting August 1st, by the time you get into around Labor Day, we can add our rye over the top of our fall power greens. If there happens to be drought, the brassica doesn't grow, or whatever you're planting, then you can throw the rye over the top of that. The following spring, if you're up north, that rye might be 18 inches, 15 inches tall. When you get into June 1st, you can't let frost or freeze hit that germinating buckwheat because it'll kill it. Just lay it dead. I've had a July 4th frost and freeze and snow flurries in the UP of Michigan kill all my buckwheat. So even then, you're still taking a chance, even though you're putting it down. And you look around Memorial Day and you're saying, well, there's no frost or freeze in the forecast. Well, it can still come back to bite you. It can always happen. But that June 1st seems to be a good target date. And then if you're up north, that rye won't get too tall. You want it to still be green. And you can kill out the rye. It'll suppress weeds in the spring. And you get a great shot of weed control. And then you can spray, throw down your seed. So if you don't have a lot of weeds, you're just killing the rye. Then you can spray it with glyphosate, throw down your seed the exact same day. You can roll it in with a Packer Max, and then you can get a great catch and go from there. You can drill it if you want, whatever way, but you don't have to have a roller crimper. Don't use rye, things like that, because even then, if you're roller crimping rye, you're putting the seed head down in the soil. Now you have thousands and thousands of pounds of noxious rye in the soil that you have to kill. And if you're trying to plant brassicas at that time in early August, then the rye will overtake your brassica and kill it. Trust me, I've learned that the hard way. And it's just not a good practice. Buckwheat's the only plant that you can smash with. We've used ATV tires, Packer Max, Call the Packer, tractor tires, truck tires, car tires. It all smashes, lays down flat, looks pretty, and it's very, very easy. In the following year, you just start the whole process over again. It's very reliable. You can do it with very small equipment. I've had people use their lawn tractors to smash it down. You can use it with an ATV, just smash it down with your ATV. You can get the deluxe model and you can use an ATV with four-wheel drive and pull a Cul-de-Packer behind it. Even the Packer Max comes in a 4-foot section, which is perfect for an ATV size. We like the 6-footers for the UTVs. The bottom line is it's a very foolproof process if you follow these steps. And I want to hear if it doesn't work, you come back and say, well, it didn't work and you didn't use one of these steps. You got to use the steps, and it works great. And it's something that you can rely on this year to get your food plots in. And guess what? You'll look like the big boys with the big toys. And because they're ripping up soil, they might have eroded the ground, dried out the soil. You might have poor looking food plots than even you do. Everyone, thanks for watching to the end of the video. I really want you to check out whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, Pure Wildlife Blends. There's so much we have to offer you. You know, if you never buy anything from us or hire us to come to your land, that's okay. We're still going to be putting out all this free content to try to help you out. I want to put a smile on your face. I want you to have a great hunt. But from our food plot seed blends, to books, to web classes, to hiring us, we have lots of stuff to offer on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com and Pure Wildlife Blends. Make sure you check it out. The links are in the description.